The day humanity showed up at the Galactic Council with blood-smeared ships. The call to order. The grand chamber of the Galactic Council shimmered with 1,000 colors, refracting through crystalline walls designed to display the harmony of a united galaxy. Delegates from 100 species murmured in anticipation, tendrils twitching, antennae flicking, eyes blinking in a dozen rhythms. The topic was urgent, dire. A species known only in ancient war records had re-emerged in the spiral's outer rim. The Xir'Zhul, a name spoken in hushed, ancient tones, like a curse too dark to utter fully. Supreme Speaker Tval of the Siren raised one silken arm, and the chamber quieted. Let the council convene. Today we assess the rising threat along the Perseus boundary. Intelligence confirms Xir'Zhul activity. Colonies have gone dark. Trade routes disintegrate. We must act. A ripple of nervous noise surged through the delegates. The Andari clicked in high frequency, warning of potential extinction-level consequences. The Kravans suggested immediate quarantine. The Dayari offered to form a diplomatic probe. Not one word about direct engagement. Not one word about Earth. They hadn't noticed the distortion at the edge of the chamber's vast viewing dome. Ships dropping from FDL with a violent shimmer of light. Dozens of them. Bulky, industrial vessels, human-made. No sleek curvature, no polished alloys. These were brutish things of war, dented and carbon-scarred. And they were wrong. So very wrong. They were stained. The red-black smear of dried Xir'Zhul ichor clung to the hulls, streaked along impact zones, plastered across the forward armor like war paint. The chamber fell into stunned silence as the ships anchored, brazenly, just above the council's sanctum. Not one hailed for clearance. Not one asked for permission. Then came the signal. Council members, a hard voice said through open comms. This is Captain Arya Grant of the Terran Defense Fleet. We request speaking time. The matter concerns the Xir'Zhul. It is urgent. There was a pause, a quiet so thick the chamber's air recyclers became audible. Then Tval leaned forward, voice wary. You arrive unannounced, Captain, in vessels bearing the marks of slaughter. Humanity was not invited to this session. The human reply was calm, tired, edged with something ancient and unforgiving. You didn't invite us because you thought we wouldn't survive. But here we are. The chamber lights dimmed as holograms activated across the floor. Massive 3D projections from the Terran fleet. Burned-out planets. Xir'Zhul warforms dissected and displayed. Human marines in close-quarters combat on alien hulls. Entire flotillas self-destructing in desperate gambits. Some in the chamber recoiled. Others leaned in. Grant continued. The Xir'Zhul attacked our colonies 6 cycles ago. We responded with force. No calls for aid were answered. So we did what we had to. We fought. Alone. Delegate Varnix of the Halleck hissed. That is not our way. Conflict should be debated, balanced. The Xir'Zhul could have been reasoned with. Grant's image turned toward him, expression unreadable. We tried, she said. They answered with fire and acid. They tore families apart molecule by molecule. There was no reasoning, only extinction or resistance. We chose the latter. Tval stepped forward. Why have you come now? To let you know, Grant said. It's over. Confusion echoed. You defeated them? Someone whispered. Grant nodded once. We eradicated their fleets, burned their hatching worlds. We tracked their hive nodes into dark space and detonated singularity charges. Their kind is no longer a threat. But we came here to make sure no one mistakes silence for ignorance. We know you saw the data. We know you chose inaction. Gasps. Protests. Denials. Grant raised her voice. You left us to die. We didn't. We adapted. And now, we're here to tell you that if this council represents unity, you've failed your own ideals. But if it represents strength, she gestured and the holograms shifted, showing human ships towing Xir'Zhul wreckage, dragging them like trophies. Then consider this our application. Silence again. Not the awkward kind. Not diplomatic hesitation. The kind of silence that falls when something foundational cracks. When a new force walks onto the stage, uninvited, unignorable, and blood-smeared. We handled it. Captain Arya Grant stood before the Galactic Council, her projection tall and steady amid the chaos her words had stirred. Delegates shouted across languages, translators struggling to keep pace with the uproar. We demand proof. This is a lie. Human deception. She waited. Let them rage, she thought. Let them see what denial looks like. Eventually, Supreme Speaker Tval raised her arm again. The chamber dimmed, quiet returned. You claim to have eradicated the Xir'Zhul, an ancient terror that once brought empires to their knees. You expect us to believe you, alone, achieved this. Grant didn't flinch. Not expect. Inform. She raised her hand. A new projection bloomed. Dark space. A Terran reconnaissance drone drifting through the ruins of a Xir'Zhul birthing cluster. Organic towers crumbled, their insectal spires leaking bioluminescent fluids. Bodies, unrecognizable, some still twitching, floated in the vacuum. Wreckage of alien ships were tethered to Terran hulls with magnetic clamps, symbols scorched into the plating. Operation Red Harvest, Grant said. They attacked Vega Station first. No warning. No message. We lost 2 million in under 4 hours. The scene shifted. Flashback. Aboard the TDF Sovereign Blade, 6 cycles prior. Contact. Multiple bogies. No recognized transponders. Grant stood on the command deck, surrounded by chaos. Screens flickered with heat signatures, hundreds, descending on Vega Prime. Scramble interceptors. Prepare emergency broadcast. There's no time, her XO shouted. They're already inside orbit. Through the viewport, they saw them. The Xir'Zhul. Organic ships, writhing with tendrils, spitting plasma, and chitinous drones. And then the station was gone. Just gone. A flash. A scream on the comms. Then nothing. In the council chamber, Grant's voice remained flat. Controlled. We lost our outer rim defenses in a matter of days. No one answered our distress calls. Not one council fleet responded. Delegate Creel of the Authari protested, her voice high and trembling. The council needed time to deliberate, to confirm the threat. Its procedure. Grant snapped her head toward the projection of Creel. They were butchering our civilians while you checked your rules. The room quieted again. Back in the flashback, Terran forces retaliated. No diplomacy. No hesitation. Just war. Phase 1, retaliatory strikes. Phase 2, infiltration, Grant continued. We adapted, analyzed their neural structures, designed weapons that disrupted their hive links. We call them decapitators. Crude but effective. A series of grainy combat feeds followed. Human soldiers in exo-armor breaching into living vessels, fighting hand-to-claw inside pulsing, veined corridors. Screams, both human and alien, echoed through the footage. Losses were high. Too high. So we escalated. Bioweapons. Black hole munitions. We burned their nesting moons with antimatter lances. We fought not just to survive, but to erase the threat. The footage cut to a planet cracking apart. Human ships fleeing its gravity well as it collapsed under a singularity detonation. You exterminated them, a voice said quietly. It was the Dayari delegate. Her eyes, luminous and wide, held something between awe and fear. All of them. Grant didn't look away. Everyone we could find. Why smear your ships with their blood? Val asked. Not accusatory, curious, conflicted. Grant exhaled slowly. At first, it was unintentional. Hulls stained after boarding actions. Our soldiers refused to wash it off. They wanted a reminder of what we faced, of what we became. Later, it became a symbol, not of pride, of warning. A murmur rippled through the chamber. You became monsters to defeat monsters, someone muttered. No, Grant replied. We became something older, something your peaceful order forgot, something that remembers how to fight. Silence again. She let the words hang. Then she added, softer, we didn't come for applause or forgiveness. We came so the next time death knocks on your door, you remember who answered it first. A long pause. Then the Kervan delegate slammed a limb against the floor. If this is true, if they're truly gone, then perhaps we owe the humans gratitude. Another hissed. Or scrutiny. These are not actions of civilized beings. Grant smiled coldly. You left us to die. We survived. You don't get to judge how. She stepped back. The hologram flickered. The blood-smeared ships remained, hovering silently above the Council's peace-gardened world like relics from an older, grimmer galaxy. They had spoken. They had survived. And they had changed everything. The weight of survival. The chamber had never felt colder. Delegates sat rigid in their seats, some silent in contemplation, others visibly disturbed. The imagery of Terran warfare lingered like a stench. The burned, hatching worlds, the broken corpses of Xir'Zhul, the bloody hulls of human ships. Captain Arya Grant's projection stood unflinching in the center of it all. She knew what they were thinking. They weren't deciding whether the threat was real. They were deciding whether humanity belonged among them, or belonged in chains. Then the first voice rose. Genocide, croaked the Authari high mind. Its gelatinous form pulsed, bright with agitation. That is what you committed. Total extermination. Even predators do not kill every last prey. Grant didn't blink. And what would you have done? Tried to reason with them while they cracked your moons crust open to harvest your oceans. We would have sought negotiation, the Andari diplomat chimed. You did not even attempt diplomacy. We lost entire cities and hours. Children liquefied by their atmospheric weapons. Colonies vanished mid-transmission. We didn't have the luxury of negotiation. And now, said Tval softly, you expect us to applaud your methods? Grant's face hardened. No, I expect you to understand them. The chamber was quiet. Then someone else spoke, a voice hesitant and sad. It was the Naraxi, a peaceful aquatic species who had once fought the Xir'Zhul eons ago, and nearly went extinct because of it. You turned yourselves into what we once feared the most, the Naraxi delegate said. You became ruthless, efficient, terrifying. A flicker of emotion crossed Grant's face. Weariness, perhaps. Grief. Do you think we wanted to? She asked. We didn't set out to become monsters. But when no one came, when we stood alone, when we lost millions and saw no end in sight, we changed. Because we had to. Flashback, a memory, personal this time. The ruins of New Alexandria. Skyscrapers hollowed out by organic acid. Corpses buried in ash. Grant walks through a wrecked hospital, helmet off. Eyes hollow. She kneels beside a child. Frozen in fear, even in death. Small hands clutching a stuffed animal half melted to her chest. Behind her, a Marine speaks. Council finally sent a probe. Arrived 2 days after we glassed the bastards. Grant doesn't answer. She just looks up at the sky, at the stars where help should have come from, and whispers they left us. Back to the chamber. Delegate Varnix of the Halleck stood now. Her voice was firm. Whatever your reasons, your methods breach the Galactic Codex. Use of planet-cracking weapons. AI-guided extermination programs. Biogenic viruses. These are forbidden for a reason. Grant straightened. The Codex was written in times of peace. It wasn't built for enemies that don't communicate, don't compromise, don't even respond. We followed a different rule. Survival. You acted without oversight. You declared war on behalf of all of us. No, Grant said. We fought for ourselves. Because no one else would. Another voice cut through the tension. Unexpected. Soft but clear. It came from a small platform at the edge of the chamber, usually reserved for observers. It was the ambassador of the Xir'Zhul, a minor species with few systems, barely known beyond their quadrant. I was at Mira Station, the Xir'Zhul said. When the Xir'Zhul came, our own government fled, abandoned us. We begged for help. The only ships that came were Terran. The chamber turned toward him, stunned. They didn't ask for payment. They didn't ask for allegiance. They just fought. They evacuated our young, held the line. And when we begged them not to return, when we told them the Xir'Zhul couldn't be beaten, they went anyway. He looked to Grant. You saved my people. At great cost. A murmur stirred through the delegates. Not all were convinced. But the story had cracked something. Grant took the silence as her final chance. We didn't come to boast. We didn't come to ask for your blessing. We came to tell you, they're gone. The nightmare is over. And we're still here. Tval's expression was unreadable. And if another nightmare arises? Grant smiled grimly. Then next time, you don't wait. The chamber began to shift, not just in mood but in alliances. Some delegates now looked at each other, calculating, wondering. Perhaps Earth wasn't a rogue power. Perhaps they were a shield. Blood-smeared, hardened, unforgiving, but a shield nonetheless. We're not asking. The council was no longer quiet. It was listening. Some delegates conferred in hushed tones. Others watched the hologram of Captain Arya Grant with newfound respect or wary calculation. What had once been shock had curdled into something more complex, understanding, and fear. Supreme Speaker Tval broke the silence first. You are asking for admittance, then? Full council recognition? A seat among the core species? Captain Grant's expression remained unreadable. We're not asking. A pause. The words were plain, but they dropped like a meteor into the heart of the chamber. We came to tell you, she continued, that Earth is no longer a fringe system, not a fledgling species begging for relevance. We held the line. We paid the price. We beat back a galactic extinction event with no support, no treaties, no allies. So we're not asking for permission to stand among you. We already do. Tval's face remained composed, but her fingers tapped against the control dais. A subconscious sign of tension. That's not how this works. It is now, Grant said. Another hologram bloomed beside her, this time showing a Terran fleet mobilized across sectors. Not an invasion force, but a wall. Several key trade routes now passed through Terran-patrolled space. Formerly silent colonies in the Perseus Arm were now heavily fortified, rebuilt with human and Xir'Zhul engineering. From ashes, new cities rose. Refugees had not just been saved, they had thrived under Terran protection. You've taken control of multiple sectors, said the Daari diplomat. Without sanction. They were abandoned, Grant countered. We reclaimed them, built infrastructure, stabilized economies. You had centuries. You did nothing. We were bound by protocol. And we weren't, she said. That's the difference. Tval leaned forward. And what happens if we say no? If we deny you a seat? Grant's eyes met hers. Then we remain outside. But don't mistake that for isolation. Every colony we saved, every species we defended, every trade route we reopened, we're building something. You can choose to be part of it, or watch it grow without you. Gasps, protests, and then, agreement? Delegate Creel of the Authari rose. I propose a conditional seat, provisional membership with observation. Let's assess their conduct with fresh perspective. Others nodded. Even among the old guard, the calculus was changing. But one delegate, the sleek, silver-eyed figure of the CERN Dominion, spoke up sharply. And if another threat comes, he said, if Earth faces an enemy it cannot beat, will you drag us into another slaughter? Grant turned slowly to face him. No, she said. We'll handle it. That simple answer carried weight. Not bravado. Experience. The Xir'Zhul ambassador stood once more. I support their ascension, he said. My world exists because of them. I owe them my voice. Tval looked across the chamber. Her silence was the kind used by leaders when everything has already changed, and only the words remain. Very well. Earth shall be granted provisional status. As of this moment, you are recognized by the Galactic Council. Grant said nothing at first, just nodded. The faintest lift of her chin. Then she spoke. One last thing, she said. This isn't just about seats and titles. It's about preparation. You believe peace would last forever. We've learned better. We're already training for what comes next. What has come next? Asked a cautious voice. Grant's hologram looked skyward, as though she could see something they couldn't. Something always does. The hologram faded. Above the chamber, Terran ships began to peel away, silent, blood-smeared sentinels cutting across the void. They didn't linger. They didn't gloat. They moved on. 3 days later, Outer Rim, unclaimed system. A Terran scout drone drifted through the shadows of a long-dead star. It scanned debris fields, logged readings. Then something, a signature, not Xir'Zhul, something older, buried, but stirring. The drone transmitted its findings, encoded in burst, before something vast and angular blotted its signal. Back at Earth, TDF Strategic Command. Captain Grant reviewed the message alone. Unknown architecture. No response. No aggression yet. She stared at the blinking report, then tapped a single command. Initiate contingency. Iron Veil. The galaxy may have survived the Xir'Zhul, but now it would face that future with humanity at its center. Blood-smeared, ready, and unafraid.